Good morning and welcome to the South Carolina Public Service Commission. Today is Tuesday, July 15th, 2025, at approximately 10 a.m. And we are here today concerning docket number 2025-4G, the annual review of purchase gas adjustment and policies of Piedmont Natural Gas Company. All commissioners are present in the hearing room except Commissioner Britt, who is joining us virtually. Ms. Wessinger Hill, if you would, please explain the docket before we proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. The hearing before you this morning is, as the Chairman mentioned, in docket number 2025-4G. It concerns the annual review of the purchase gas adjustment and gas purchasing policies of Piedmont Natural Gas Company, Incorporated. The hearing was scheduled and noticed by the Clerk's Office to be held today, July 15th, 2024, beginning at 10 a.m. Mr. Chairman, upon inquiry of all participating counsel of record, they are present and available for your call of appearances. I do believe there is one preliminary matter to be addressed before the start of the hearing.
Thank you very much. If the parties would introduce themselves, and then we'll deal with the one preliminary matter.
Good morning, Chair Powers and members of the Commission. Mindy McGrath with the law firm of Troutman Pepper Locke, appearing today with my local counsel and colleague at Troutman, Michael Peretz. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. ORS.
Good morning, Chair Powers and members of the Commission. Representing ORS, my name is Claire Binge, and with me today is Chad Torrey.
Thank you very much. Who is going to present the...
Mr. Chair, with your permission, I would like to briefly address the Commission regarding the settlement agreement.
All right.
As I believe the Commission is aware, Piedmont and ORS executed a settlement agreement in this matter that was filed on July 7th, 2025. Set forth in the agreement, ORS determined that during the review period, Piedmont's gas purchasing policies and practices were reasonable and prudent, and that Piedmont properly adhered to the gas cost recovery provisions of its gas tariff and relevant Commission orders. ORS also determined that Piedmont managed its hedging plan during the review period in a reasonable and prudent manner consistent with Commission orders. Finally, the parties agreed that the end-of-period balance for Piedmont's deferred gas cost account and Piedmont's hedging activity during the review period are appropriately reflected in Company Witness King's testimony and exhibits. As such, I would ask that the settlement agreement be marked for identification and entered into the record as the first hearing exhibit.
All right. The settlement agreement will be marked for identification and placed in the record as exhibit number 1.
Thank you.
All right. I've been through the settlement agreement, and I'm not going to cross-examine anybody on this one. I don't think it's necessary. I think everybody understands what they're doing, and I do appreciate it. Everybody seems to have done a good job with this. So it's your case. You may proceed.
At this time, Piedmont would like to call Mandy King, Todd Brees, and Jeff Patton to the stand as a panel.
Please come forward.
All right, good morning. Ms. King, we will begin with you. Can you
She
please
needs to swear them in first.
Yes, that would be good.
We're just letting them get settled.
Yeah. If you would raise your right hands, please. Do you solemnly affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Just a little too excited. All right, let's try this again. Ms. King, we'll start with you. May you please state your name and business address for the record?
My name is Mandy J. King. My business address is 525 South Tryon Street, Charlotte, North Carolina, 28202.
And by whom are you employed and in what capacity?
I am employed by Duke Energy Corporation as the manager of gas accounting for Piedmont Natural Gas Company Incorporated.
And on June 3rd, 2025, did you cause to be pre-filed in this docket direct testimony consisting of 3 pages and 2 exhibits marked MJK-1 and MJK-2?
I did.
Do you have any corrections to your pre-filed direct testimony or pre-filed exhibits?
I do not.
If I asked you the same questions that are set forth in your pre-filed direct testimony while you're on the stand today, would your answers be the same?
They would.
On July 8th, 2025, did you cause to be pre-filed in this docket settlement testimony consisting of 2 pages?
I did.
And do you have any corrections to your pre-filed settlement testimony?
I do not.
Chair Powers, at this time, Piedmont would ask that Ms. King's pre-filed direct and settlement testimony be entered into the record as if given orally from the stand, and that her exhibits marked MJK-1 and MJK-2 be marked and entered into the record as a composite hearing exhibit.
All right, the pre-filed direct and settlement testimony of Ms. King will be entered in the record as if given orally from the stand. The pre-filed exhibits identified as MJK 1 and 2 are marked for identification and will be placed in the record as exhibit number 2.
Thank you, Chair Powers. Ms. King, have you prepared a summary of your pre-filed direct and settlement testimony?
Yes, I have.
And can you please read it for the commission?
Sure. Good morning, Chair Powers and members of the Commission. I filed direct testimony in this proceeding on June 3rd, 2025, and settlement testimony on July 8th, 2025. My direct testimony describes Piedmont's gas cost and hedging plan accounting data and end-of-period balances for the review period in this proceeding, which is April 1st, 2024 through March 31st, 2025. Pursuant to prior Commission directives, Piedmont maintains a gas cost deferred account in which it records on a monthly basis its gas cost expenses, amounts of gas costs recovered, and deferrals. For this review period, Piedmont's end-of-period balance in the purchased gas deferred account was an undercollection of $5,004,586.91. Summaries of the monthly activity in these accounts are attached as exhibits to my direct testimony. The South Carolina Office of Regulatory Staff conducted an audit of the entries to Piedmont's gas cost deferred account and the hedging deferred account for the review period in this proceeding. ORS did not discover any issues in its audit, and accordingly, ORS and Piedmont entered into a settlement agreement in this docket on July 7, 2025. My settlement testimony discusses and offers support of the settlement agreement and explains why Piedmont believes that the Commission's approval of the settlement agreement is in the interest of Piedmont and in the public interest. As such, I respectfully request that the Commission approve the settlement agreement as filed. This concludes my summary of my direct and settlement testimony. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. King. Mr. Brees, we'll move on to you. Can you please state your name and business address for the record?
My name is Todd Brees, and my business address is 525 South Tryon Street, Charlotte, North Carolina, 28202.
And by whom are you employed and in what capacity?
I'm employed by Duke Energy as the manager of natural gas trading and optimization for Piedmont Natural Gas.
And are you the same Todd Brees who pre-filed direct testimony in this proceeding on June 3rd, 2025, consisting of 18 pages?
Yes.
And was that testimony prepared by you or under your direction?
Yes.
Do you have any corrections that need to be made to your testimony?
No.
And if I asked you the same questions today under oath, would your answers be the same?
Yes.
Chair Powers, at this time, Piedmont would ask that the pre-filed direct testimony of Todd Brees be entered into the record as if given orally today from the stand.
The pre-filed direct testimony of Mr. Brees will be entered into the record as if given orally from the stand.
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Brees, have you prepared a summary of your testimony?
Yes.
And can you please read it for the commission?
Yes. Good morning, Chair Powers and members of the Commission. I filed direct testimony in this proceeding on June 3rd, 2025. My testimony describes Piedmont's gas purchasing policies and the company's hedging activity during the review period in this proceeding, which is April 1st, 2024 through March 31st, 2025. During the review period, Piedmont continued its use of a best cost approach to purchasing gas. This approach involves 5 components: the price of gas, the security of gas supply, the flexibility of gas supply, gas deliverability, and supplier relationships. I discuss each of these factors in detail in my testimony. Collectively, these 5 components establish a standard for purchasing gas that Piedmont has used successfully for many years and which has been reviewed and found prudent on all occasions in South Carolina and in the other state jurisdictions in which Piedmont operates. Most of Piedmont's primary gas supplies are purchased under arrangements that are standard in the industry and which involve the payment of reservation fees for firm supplies priced at market-based indices. However, Piedmont also purchases short-term supplies in the spot market at market-based prices when necessary to meet customers' needs during non-critical periods. My testimony describes the various supply arrangements the company entered into during the review period and the process the company utilized to price secondary market sales. My testimony also discusses the steps the company has taken to manage the cost of gas, such as utilizing the company's hedging plan as an insurance policy to reduce gas cost volatility to its customers. I describe how the company monitors compliance with the hedging plan and why the company believes it is prudent to continue with the current hedging plan. In summary, my testimony supports the conclusion that Piedmont's review period gas costs were prudently incurred and that the company managed its hedging program in compliance with prior commission orders. This concludes the summary of my direct testimony. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brees. And last but not least, Mr. Patton, can you please state your name and business address for the record?
Sure. My name is Jeffrey Patton, and my business address is 525 South Tryon Street, Charlotte, North Carolina, 28202.
And by whom are you employed and in what capacity?
I'm employed by Duke Energy as a manager of gas origination on behalf of Piedmont Natural Gas.
And on June 3rd, 2025, did you cause to be filed in this docket pre-filed direct testimony consisting of 16 pages and 11 exhibits marked JCP-1A through JCP-6?
Yes.
And on June 11th, 2025, did you cause to be pre-filed in this docket an errata correcting exhibit JCP-1A?
Yes.
And on June 26, 2025, did you cause to be filed in this docket a second errata correcting exhibit JCP-3A?
Yes.
Do you have any additional corrections or revisions that you need to make to your pre-filed direct testimony or exhibits?
No, I do not.
If I were to ask you the same questions that are set forth in your pre-filed direct testimony today under oath, would your answers be the same?
Yes.
Chair Powers, at this time, Piedmont would ask that Mr. Patton's pre-filed direct testimony be entered into the record as if given orally today from the stand, and that his exhibits marked JCP-1A through JCP-6, including revised JCP-1A and JCP-3A, be marked and entered into the record as a composite hearing exhibit.
As well as 4A, 4B, 4C, all of his exhibits.
Yes, Chair Powers. So all of the exhibits, 1A through JCP-6, and then the 2 revised exhibits, which are 1A.
The pre-filed direct testimony, Mr. Patton, will be entered into the record as if given orally from the stand. The exhibits known as JCP 1A, 1B, 2, 3A, 3B, 3C, 4A, 4B, 4C, JCP 5 and 6, as well as the revised 1A and revised 3A, are marked for identification and will be placed in the record as exhibit number 3.
Thank you, Chair Powers. Mr. Patton, did you prepare a summary of your pre-filed direct testimony?
Yes, I did.
And can you please read it for the commission?
Sure. Good morning, Chair Powers and members of the Commission. I filed direct testimony and exhibits in this proceeding on June 3rd, 2025, and thereafter filed 2 errata filings to correct minor errors on 2 exhibits. My testimony presents the current and projected market requirements of Piedmont, South Carolina customers during the review period in this proceeding, which is April 1, 2024 through March 31, 2025. I also discuss the capacity acquisition policies and practices the company employs to serve Piedmont, South Carolina customers. I present the inputs and the calculations utilized by the company to determine the design day needs of its system, which is the highest projected 24-hour demand, and how we as a company are prepared to meet such requirements to serve our firm customers. In particular, my testimony supports the third-party design day demand and design winter load duration curve study conducted by Marquette Energy Analytics. My testimony and supporting exhibits provide an overview of the calculations and methodology in Marquette's design day study and demonstrate that the company has and will continue to provide safe and reliable service to its firm customer base during design day conditions. My testimony also discusses how Piedmont utilizes a best cost methodology to acquire incremental capacity to meet projected growth and discusses how Piedmont plans to supply its estimated future growth requirements during the next 5 years. Finally, I discuss how Piedmont contracted for capacity on Transco's Southside Reliability Enhancement Project and provide an update on the status of the project. This concludes the summary of my direct testimony. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patton. Chair Powers, Piedmont's witnesses are available for questions from the commission at this time.
Thank you very much. Anything from ORS?
No, Chairman.
All right. Commissioner questions.
Chair Powell,
Commissioner Caston.
thank you and good morning. Mr. Patton, I think, and it's probably yelling at me here and I'm missing it. So if I am, don't be too harsh. On your exhibit JCP 4C, I was looking for the units. I see in like 2030 through 31, you show a deficit of, I think, 16,042. Is that decatherms per day? I mean, what are the units on this?
That's right. On Exhibit 4C, the units are in decatherms per day.
Okay. Is it on this thing anywhere and I just missed it? I got to know.
It's very small
Oh,
at the top.
all values in DT per day. I knew that would happen, but thanks. That answers that question. In your testimony, let's see, page, I guess 16 of 44 or 15 of 16, depending on, if you look at the top of the page, 15 of 16, you're talking about, the question, has the company undertaken a review of its gas planning efforts during the review period? And you talk about a joint planning process with Duke Energy Carolina, Duke Energy Progress. The North Carolina Utilities Commission approved the joint planning process. Thinking about this deficit, I guess projected in 2031, is that what this planning process is, I guess, looking to accommodate? Or
So your question is, as regards to you're mentioning a deficit on Exhibit 4C, I believe, in the future, a projected deficit in 2030, 31?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So just at a high level, I would say, the joint planning efforts are not necessarily designed to specifically meet a projected shortfall, as forecasts can change I think the overall design of that joint planning process is to coordinate just for the utilities during extreme events, make sure that the utilities are talking not only between each other, but also with the upstream interstate providers to coordinate just whatever outages, schedules, whatever communication in order to be prepared for those events, and then reflect on lessons learned and events in order to, adequately plan for the next future periods where there could be high load. I think at some degree, the understanding of the general market and maybe the need for incremental transportation is discussed at a high level, but I think it's more from an operational planning perspective for specific, high load periods.
Okay, more like these winter, whatever we call them, these winter storms that are unusual. And, okay,
Yes.
and even though it's the North Carolina Utilities Commission, I guess approved this, is it fair for me to assume that this planning process along these lines is not exclusively for the North Carolina system, but the system as a whole, including South Carolina? Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct. Encompasses, not only North Carolina, like you mentioned, all of Piedmont service territory, including South Carolina, as well as the electric utilities whose overlapping service territories in South Carolina.
And relative to the red number on this particular table, what is there a plan in place? Does Piedmont know what they're going to do relative to accommodating that?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
The deficit you have, 16,000.
Commissioner Cass, could you identify which?
Oh, I'm sorry. This
exhibit
is.
you're on?
Yes, I can. This is JCP, Exhibit JCP-4C.
Thank you.
So I think maybe restate the question. Have we made specific plans to address that shortfall, a projected shortfall in 2030, 31? Is that your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We're aware of that. I would say, as our forecasts change from year to year and the projected for growth can change, we're aware of that shortfall, but have not at this time made any commitments to potentially address that, as we continue to kind of see how over the years that shortfall may or may not change, and what's the right approach to do that. And so, we look ahead and determine if there's if we see that shortfall continuing to grow in the areas that we could need additional supply, we would, look to the upstate interstate pipelines to determine what are our options from incremental capacity in order to meet that needs. Is there anything on system that we could do, potentially LNG? What's the best cost scenario in order to meet that projected shortfall? And so as, that over the next course of a year or so, we will continue to monitor that projected shortfall and determine what's the best course of action in order to meet that.
Well, I don't know your business. You know your business, so I'm not even proposing that I do. But I do recognize that we're halfway through 2025. Mm-hmm. 2030 is, 5 years away. And I don't know what kind of lag. I don't know in your industry how long it takes to do that. Mm-hmm. I knew, from my industry, what we had to do, about how long it would take, permits, preliminary engineering reports, design, building stuff. Mm-hmm. But if I'm hearing you correctly, saying you're kind of monitoring it, seeing, I guess, to see what the numbers are next year, the year before. And I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but does Piedmont have a plan that they can implement in a reasonably short time frame, should this number continue to be next year? It's a deficit.
Yeah, I mean, so as we monitor the deficit, I mean, there's just from a different options in order to meet that deficit. One option is from Mr. Brees to be able to go out and purchase short-term peaking supplies in order to meet that shortfall. That's one option. Other options can be to look for incremental interstate pipeline capacity, which you mentioned from a permitting and construction standpoint. You're several years, you're 4 or 5 years away from that, and you have to look ahead for that. From an on-system LNG perspective, 3 to 4 year lead time. And so, what we noticed coming out of this past winter of January 2025, our usage was very high and set some records for the company. And as a result, as we went through the analysis with Marquette Energy Analytics, our design day numbers for this upcoming winter increased relative to from past winter. And that increase of roughly 100,000 decatherms a day shifted that future need and created that shortfall in 2030-31. Now we recognize that the numbers came in this summer, and we're evaluating that increase. And as we go through this upcoming winter, the experience of that actual load, how that plays into the analysis and the design day methodology employed by MEA, what does it look like for our design day for the next upcoming winter after we have another year of experience, and to see at that time, do we anticipate the shortfall to either increase or continue? And at that point, we will need to start making plans to how we would best address that shortfall in the 2030 31 winter and beyond. What's the best course of action? Because you mentioned just the lead time involved, but right now we're going through, and we'd like to go through at least another winter to see how the numbers play out and when we need to start making those plans.
Okay, and I'm not trying to beat this dead horse. As I think about it, at least in North Carolina and South Carolina, it does appear that a lot of growth, population, industry, and such. Is it fair to me to assume that growth, there would also be a growth in the demand for Piedmont natural gas?
Yes, as we add customers in our territory, we recognize the usage and the ability to increase load. I would say, as we look at our design day plans, the customer additions year over year, the net customer additions doesn't directly contribute to exact one-for-one increase on our design day, because you also take into account efficiencies and other customer behaviors that over time, as appliances become more efficient in the usage, you're not seeing a direct one-for-one increase on design day as we would with customer additions. But we recognize that is something that we are continuing monitoring, and we do see growth in our design day numbers year over year. And a lot of that's driven by the growth in South Carolina, which I understand is the fastest growth area for us.
I'm sorry. When these efficiencies you're talking about, are you talking about like with customers and how they manage their gas? Are you talking about gas production facility? I'm not sure.
Like
what
newer appliances, more up-to-date appliances and furnaces, those type of efficiencies that enable the usage to be less and still get the same heating and output. Yeah.
Understand, like with electrical heat pumps.
Right.
But that said, it's 5 years away. I mean, does Piedmont? Are you saying that you're not hanging your hat on the next 5 years? Everyone's going to buy real efficient they're going to use less gas, all these customers.
No, we're not. We see that shortfall that you mentioned, and we are reviewing it, and we'll be able to respond accordingly to address that shortfall in the time period that we have.
I won't ask you more about it, but you understand my concern, correct?
Yes, sir, I do.
All right, thank you. No more questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Caston. Commissioner Williams.
Thank you, Chair Powers. Good morning.
Morning.
I'm going to ask a little bit more, but from a different perspective. Reserve margins are something that we're used to hearing about. 5% is much lower than what we look at in the electrical side of your industry. How long have you used a 5% reserve margin? Does that shift over time depending on many of the circumstances that you've already talked about? Could you just kind of give me a bigger picture of that aspect?
Sure. And going back to 4C, that's where is one of the exhibits that we show that 5% reserve margin on our design day demand. And so Piedmont has employed a 5% reserve margin on our upstream supply procurement practice for many years, predating when I joined the group in 2019. I would say it's much less, probably at least 20 years, give or take, that we've used that. We feel like a 5% reserve margin is adequate to cover us for upstream supply disruptions or colder than normal weather, those things. And we feel like it's, based on our experience, it's been a prudent balance between a significant amount of reserves to meet that shortfall, as well as just the overall cost and impact to the customer. And so I recognize, having worked previously on the electric side, a typical 15% reserve margin is more the norm for that. But for Piedmont, we've used 5% for a while, and we're comfortable with that.
Okay. And then the other side of the equation, which has been referenced as well, is looking at 4% growth. And I didn't go back to look at how you might have described that, but is that in decatherms? Is it in population? Is it, understanding industrial growth versus population growth, apples and oranges?
Sure.
So I think where I'm headed overall is the relationship of understanding it's apples and oranges, 4% and 5%, but also understanding South Carolina wasn't growing like in 2019, for example, or 20 years ago, weren't growing like we are growing today.
Sure, that's a good question. So to answer that question, I would kind of point you to my exhibit 3B, which, for example, just shows the net customer additions. This is customer growth, and you can see, and this is for North Carolina and South Carolina in total. Historically, we're growing, 1.5%, 1.75%, and we projected for net customer growth to grow at that roughly 1.5% in customer additions.
And that's residential and
that's
commercial.
Residential commercial. That's correct.
And is that volumetric or numbers of customers?
That's number of customers.
Okay.
And so, for example, we show in 2023 we had 965,233 customers, and then in 2024 we had 980,263. So it's a net customer additions based on that point in time through March 31st of that year. And so that's from a net customer additions. And now, when we going to MEA, Market Engineering Analytics,
right,
as they develop our design day, the actual expected growth in that peak design day demand, it's not, like I said, not exactly a 1-for-1. And so either 3C or 4C show that. And there's a top line at the very top, again, pretty small, but it's the net demand growth rate. And so what that shows, that's the year over year. How is that, our projected usage on that design day, how is that growing year over year? And when you look at that, the numbers, it's roughly around 0.5 to 0.75%. And so, kind of getting back to my earlier point, those net customer additions, although it is increasing our usage on that peak design day, it's not necessarily a 1.5% growth year over year is what we're projecting, if that makes sense.
Thank you for kind of putting that in a package and wrapping it up for me. I appreciate it, and that makes a lot of sense.
Okay, great.
I think I have one other question for Mr. Breeze. So this is on page 15 of your testimony. You probably don't need to go there. You discuss the steps the company has taken regarding gas price volatility. Do you believe that the company's hedging program costs are reasonable compared to the risk of price volatility?
Yes, we've always treated the hedging plan as a low-cost insurance policy, and during this past review period, the total cost was about $310,000, which equates to 15 cents per customer per month. We feel that that is a pretty low-cost insurance policy, and it did shield our customers from gas cost volatility, and it is a basic hedging plan. It only involves the cost of call options. So being a more basic, lower cost plan, we still feel it gives our customers the low cost insurance they need. And you couple that with the natural hedging in place that we have with our storages. Mm-hmm. The storages act as a natural physical hedge, being able to fill the storages in the summertime when prices are lower, mm-hmm. and then withdraw when prices spike up, and minimize the amount of daily gas purchases that you have to make at the higher cost. So I think all in all, it works together to ensure our customers are shielded from the gas cost volatility. And like any other insurance policy, you pay a premium and you hope you never have to use it, but when it does, you do have to use it and gas prices run up, then you have that protection. But on the other hand, if you're not using it, you have a set premium that you're paying, or set cost that you're paying, and then the customers are benefiting from the lower cost gas price that aren't going to trigger those hedges.
This is a curiosity related question. Has Piedmont ever experienced a circumstance where there was an overcollection, where there was a financial benefit to customers for having their. I know there's a financial benefit overall based on the insurance policy concept, but so I'm having trouble defining what I'm saying. But where there is there's a reduction basically to the customers, and then under what economic circumstances did that occur?
Yes, so we don't gauge the whether or not the hedging plan is working if there is an economic benefit versus an economic cost to the customers. But we did see this in 22 and 23, and NYMEX prices ran up to almost $9-10 right after Russia invaded Ukraine. There was a lot of uncertainty in the market, what was going to happen with natural gas. And so when prices ran up, all the hedges that were in place settled in the money. And so when those hedges were settling in the money, there was a net economic benefit to the customers for, I believe it was 22 and 23 review periods. But the last 2 years, there has been a small cost, which is, I think, more typical going back over the years now. Another natural hedge is the secondary marketing benefit that the customers get. And so we have seen that being a benefit every year. And this year we were able to make $8.7 million total for the customer's benefit on the secondary marketing margin. And that's with off-system sales, with asset management agreements, capacity releases of unused capacity, and unused assets needed to meet the customer demand on a daily, monthly, and term basis. And that has resulted in savings of over $4 per customer per month.
Settled in the money? Did I hear you say that phrase? And what does that mean?
Yes, so the hedging plan that we have, we purchase NYMEX call options, and so you can purchase those up to 12 months out, and you're buying them at essentially a market rate. We pay 4 to 6% of the triggered price. Generally, that's going to be between 10 and 20 cents per option. And let's say if we bought a $6 option 12 months out, and then once that particular month settles, once NYMEX settles,
Okay.
and if it's settled below 6, then you essentially are recovering that difference between the hedging strike price that you purchased at the hedge and where NYMEX settled. Now, if NYMEX was if NYMEX was above the $6, then you would get that difference. But if NYMEX was below $6, then that hedge would just settle out of the money, and then you have the sunk cost of the option premium that you paid when you executed the hedge, and that goes into the total hedging cost, or what we're seeing in this review period is that net economic cost of the hedging plan.
Thank you for the education and thank you for your answers. I appreciate it. No further questions.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Williams. Any further commissioner questions? Any redirect?
No redirect, Chairman. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. You may step down.
That concludes Piedmont's case. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. McGrath. We're going to take about 10 minutes just to get our stuff straight here, and we'll be back at 5 till 10:55. We're in recess. Good morning again. We're back on the record on 2025 4G as to Piedmont's annual review of purchase gas adjustments and gas purchasing policies. The company has finished their case, and now the Office of Regulatory Staff, you have the floor.
Chair Powers, ORS calls Kiba Kemp and Amanda Buckaloo to the stand.
If you would raise your right hands, please. Do you solemnly affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Good morning, Ms. Kemp. Please state your name for the record.
My name is Kiba Kemp.
By whom are you employed and in what capacity?
I am employed by the South Carolina Office of Regulatory Staff as a regulatory analyst.
Did you file or cause to be filed 10 pages of direct testimony in this proceeding on June 24th, 2025?
Yes.
Do you have any changes or corrections to your pre-filed direct testimony?
No, I do not.
If I asked you the same questions posed in your direct testimony today, would your answers be the same?
Yes, they would.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask that Ms. Kemp's direct testimony be entered into the record of this proceeding as if given orally from the stand.
The pre-filed direct testimony of Ms. Kemp will be entered into the record as if given orally from the stand.
Ms. Kemp, did you prepare a summary of your direct testimony?
Yes.
Would you please present your summary to the Commission?
Good morning, Chair Powers, members of the Commission. The purpose of my direct testimony is to present ORS's findings and recommendations regarding the review and examination of Piedmont Natural Gas Company during the review period. First, ORS found the company's natural gas purchasing policies to be reasonable. Second, ORS found that Piedmont managed its hedging program in compliance with prior Commission orders. Third, ORS determined Piedmont adhered to its Commission-approved gas cost recovery mechanism tariff. And fourth, ORS determined ORS found that the company is prepared to meet its obligations for the upcoming winter's projected firm customers' requirements. Subsequent to this filing of my direct testimony, a settlement agreement was entered into between the company and ORS in this proceeding. ORS believes the settlement agreement is in the public interest of South Carolina and respectfully requests the Commission approve the settlement agreement as presented.
Ms. Kemp, does that conclude your summary?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Buckaloo. Please state your name for the record.
Good morning, Chairman Powers, Vice Chairman Williams, and members of the Commission. My name is Amanda Buckaloo.
By whom are you employed and in what capacity?
I'm employed by the South Carolina Office of Regulatory Staff as an auditor.
Did you file or cause to be filed 10 pages of direct testimony in this proceeding on June 24th, 2025?
Yes, I did.
Do you have any changes or corrections to your pre-filed direct testimony?
No, I do not.
If I asked you the same questions posed in your direct testimony today, would your answers be the same?
Yes, they would.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask that Ms. Buckaloo's direct testimony be entered into the record of this proceeding as if given orally from the stand.
The pre-filed direct testimony of Ms. Buckaloo will be entered into the record as if given orally from the stand.
Ms. Buckaloo, did you also pre-file 3 exhibits with your direct testimony marked as CAB1 through CAB3?
Yes, I did.
Do you have any changes, edits, or corrections to your exhibits?
No, I do not.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask that Ms. Buckaloo's exhibits marked as CAB1 through CAB3 be marked and entered into the record as the next composite hearing exhibit.
The pre-filed exhibits of witness Buckaloo identified as CAB1 through CAB3 will be marked for identification and placed in the record as exhibit number 4.
Ms. Buckaloo, did you prepare a summary of your direct testimony?
Yes, I did.
Would you please present your summary to the Commission?
Yes. The purpose of my testimony is to set forth the results of ORS's examination of the company's purchased gas deferred account, storage inventory activity, and hedging account activity for the period April 1st, 2024 through March 31st, 2025. I have included the results of ORS's examination in Exhibits CAB 1 through CAB 3. Exhibit CAB 1 presents for each month the components which contribute to the company's over-under collection in the purchase gas deferred account for the review period. Exhibit CAB 2 summarizes the company's gas storage inventory activity during the review period. Exhibit CAB 3 details the results of the company's hedging activity for the review period, as well as the cumulative loss since the inception of the program. Based on our examination, it is the opinion of ORS the under-collection balance in Piedmont's purchase gas deferred account on March 31st, 2025 of $5,004,586.91 as shown on Company Witness King's Exhibit MJK1 is accurately stated. Subsequent to the filing of my direct testimony, a settlement agreement was entered into between the company and ORS in this proceeding. ORS believes the settlement agreement is in the public interest of South Carolina and respectfully requests the Commission approve the settlement agreement as presented.
Ms. Buckaloo, does that conclude your summary?
Yes, it does.
Thank you. Chair Powers, these witnesses are available for questioning.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the company?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner questions?
Chair Powell.
Commissioner Caston.
Thank you. I imagine your focus has been on the purchase gas adjustment and the purchasing policies for April 2024 through March 2024. So, acknowledging that, do either of you, or do you know if anyone at ORS relative to Mr. Patton's, what was that, JCP, Exhibit JCP 4, which I don't have here in front of me, that's my fault. JCP 4C. Do you consider anything like that in your review relative to that deficit in 2030?
Commissioner, yes, we did recognize that deficit, and we are going to continue to monitor it and talk with the company over their options over time.
Well, thank you. I have no more questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Caston. Any further commissioner questions? Any redirect?
No, Chair Powers. This rests ORS case.
Thank you very much. Anything further from anyone? Well, enjoy the rest of your day, and we are adjourned.